Okay, I think we're up and going now. Hi to everybody out there. We're back. Part 6 of the off-grid seminar. So how's everybody doing? I hope everybody's doing well. All right, good to see everybody. So we will get started here. In this, it's good to hear everybody's doing good or they're good. All right, in this part of the seminar, what we're going to be talking about is finding water. Okay, now I realize that I'm going to get, people give me a hard time because of the way I say water, but if you want to know how water is spelled, it's W-O-O-D-E-R, water. So my weird accent, I know people say it's water, I guess is how they say it. Well, not from where I'm from. I say water. So I'm not going to try to correct it and say it the right way throughout the live stream. It's just going to come out water because that's how I was raised. So my weird accent, sorry about that. Or if you're from the UK, it'd be wata or whatever, however you say it there. So that's just the way it's going to be. But what do you do when you move off grid? You buy a house in town, you buy a place that has electricity, it already has a well mostly, or you buy like this place here in the town of Patton, it's hooked up to the town water supply. So, which is actually fluoridated and chlorinated, so we don't mess with it. But what do you do? What do you do, excuse me, when you buy land someplace and there's no well on the property or whatever else? Okay. How important is it? Well, I would say it's probably one of the most important things. You don't have to worry if you don't have a really good source of water on the property. There's no drilled well or something like that. It's not impossible to get it. Okay, I'm going to give you a lot of different options today. Again, things I've experienced throughout my years of off-grid systems and looking at systems, both in America and in other countries as well. Option number one, which would be the easiest in terms of it works pretty much everywhere unless you live in the desert, and that is rainwater catchment. And I've even seen people in the deserts where, down the sort of the southwest areas of America where it's really dry, arid, climates and whatever else. And those people, they have rainwater catchment and they have big systems because they don't get much rain. And the rain that they do get, they have to collect all of it and preserve it. So rainwater catchment works. It's a big thing in Hawaii because of the thing of you can't really drill wells when you're, sitting on top of volcanoes. And they get plenty of rainwater down there. Pacific Northwest, big thing up there because of how much rain they get. Rainwater catchment pretty much works anywhere. This place, actually, this old house was built in 1930, and down in the basement, there's a big concrete area where they actually cut through it with a saw, and now you can walk through it, but originally it would have been a rainwater catchment cistern in the basement. I know my father told me when he was growing up, they had a rainwater catchment cistern as their source of water. And they would have to go down and clean it out and everything else, keep it clean. And so it's a very common thing, very ancient. The Bible even talks about cisterns that to collect rainwater. It's a great way to do it. I would stay away from it if you're in a high pollution type of area, like a city. If you're near a city, probably not a good idea to have rainwater catchment because of all the exhaust and everything else, the acid rain, they call it. Probably don't want to drink that. I would never drink rainwater. I don't care how pure of an area and whatever else. I would always filter it. But there's a lot of uses for rainwater catchment. And if it's filtered, we literally have a really good spring in our area here. and we've taken rainwater that we've, collected and put it through a Berkey filter, and then we take spring water and we try them both at the same time. You can't tell the difference. They both taste just as good as the other. So um, rainwater catchment. Okay, 1 inch of rain. The formula that you can, how to determine how much you can collect. 1 inch of rain plus 1,000 square feet of roof space equals 620 gallons of water. Okay, 0.62 gallons per square foot, in other words, is the formula that you can do there. So if you have a house that's 2,500 square feet and you have that much, it covers the entire roof or whatever else, length times width. You just take that and then you would multiply it times 0.62, and that would give you how much rainwater catchment that you can get. All right, so that's a good calculation there that you can figure that out. And again, if you have 1,000 square feet, that's not even that big of a metal roof area, just 1 inch of rain and you have 620 gallons of water. That's a lot of water. Okay. Now a cistern must be covered. If you're using it for any kind of water, it should be covered, or down in your basement or someplace. It has to be covered to keep out things like dirt, bugs, animals. We actually had just a old galvanized tub catching the rainwater that was coming off of our one shed where we do our laundry, and we had a moose, and he would go down and drink right out of it. And it's kind of well, probably not real bad, not real toxic, but moose slobbers and things in our rainwater catchment. I don't know, might make the clothes come out a little bit sticky or something. I don't know, but you want to keep them covered. Little funny story: when I was in Honduras the one time, one of the guys that came down with us from America, real mechanically inclined, really smart guy, mechanical wise, and he went with some other people. We were at the one area, and then we were together for a while, and then um, we went. He went some way, and then we went another way, and then we were going to meet up later on down there. And he went actually out to a camp where they would have like a youth camp and whatever down there in Honduras. I forget the area where it was, where in Honduras, in other words, but wherever it was, they had rainwater catchment as their main source of water. And they said that people were saying, that something tastes really funny about the water. Just something smells a little off. It tastes a little bit weird, whatever. And he said, well, if you have a ladder, I'll climb up there and check it. It was kind of up high up, and then gravity fed down into the spigots and everything. And he said, yeah, I'll climb up there, take the lid off or take the roof off of it, and I'll get in there and I'll look and see what's going on. And so he gets up there, takes the roof off of this rainwater catchment tank, and looks down in there, and this big lizard had died, and it somehow got down in there. And he said it was dead, laying in there, all rotted and decomposed. And he said, I think that's why the water tastes a little bit funny right now. It smells a little weird. So that's the problem. So you have to be very careful about making sure that your rainwater stays nice and clean. Um, and you'd be surprised. I mean, I've literally had times where we're using it for doing laundry and whatever, so we don't care if there's some leaves floating in it and things like that. And it will oftentimes look really, if it's exposed to sunlight, that's another thing too. You'll get some algae growth, get a little bit green and things around the edges, but you scoop the water out, it's crystal clear and it's fine. It doesn't have a weird odor to it or anything else. So rainwater is a really good thing. And like I said, if you're going to do rainwater catchment, you have to make sure that it's a metal. I'll show you here real quickly. Black plastic like these here. This would be good. This one's bad right here because it's sort of translucent. It's not transparent, but like clear, in other words, but it would let sunlight in, and so it would start turning green over time. Again, you have these galvanized ones like this, not the best because galvanized, it's a chemical coating on the metal, and it can eventually start to leach into the water. I know plastic has its own issues, but usually plastic, the bisphenol A in it. You see BPA free. Bisphenol A is what it is. It's a synthetic female hormone. Not the best to have, in plastic there, but bisphenol A can leach into the water from plastic if it's heated. Okay, now usually if it's cold, it's not going to leach any chemicals into the water. A very simple way to say it is, I heard somebody say this years ago, and I thought that's pretty good. They said if you can taste a plastic taste in whatever you're drinking out of and it's plastic, then you're drinking the chemicals. Okay, better think about that. I remember when I heard that, I actually had a plastic mug, like you could put coffee in it or hot tea or hot chocolate or whatever else, and then you take it with you, and I remember I was drinking it the one time. I thought, man, it really tastes like plastic. And then I heard that saying, and I thought, ugh, I'm actually drinking chemicals. That's not too good. So, but rainwater catchment is a very good option. You can see a lot of the different types of rainwater catchment systems here. You have your standard, like the rain barrel like that just goes, your rain gutter comes down, you can go right into it, and you can put a little spigot down there with a garden hose attachment. That's one way that you can do it. There's another one that's kind of similar. Rain gutter coming in here in the top, goes down in, you have a spigot there. There's an overflow right there. Another option. It's a kind of a smaller one, but you can get some of these things. I'll just see here. Yeah, there's a 1,700 gallon right there, 2,500 gallon, 1,100 gallon. There's one 5,000 gallon rainwater catchment. You can get some big ones. So another thing to think about there, there's a large rainwater harvesting system. That's a pretty big system there that they're putting in. Quite a few thousand gallons on that one. But one thing that you do have to look into is the possibility of it might not even be legal in some areas. I know that there are certain areas that are banning the thing of catching rainwater, because then they're saying you're keeping it from going into the ground, which will hurt the local farms in the area. It hurts the aquifer. The water doesn't go down into the aquifer and all this other stuff. So you can get in trouble for catching your own rainwater on your own property. But again, do it in a way that they can't see it, quite frankly, because nobody should be telling you that you can't collect your own rainwater. Another thing to think about, if you have, this is an extreme example right there. Okay, I don't even know what that would be. Probably hundreds of thousands of gallons of rainwater storage right there. But I won't show that one because that's kind of extreme. But this thing here, probably would be around 1,000, or maybe I shouldn't say 1,000. Probably about, from the looks of it, compared to the house, maybe 5,000 gallons. I don't know. I don't know if it really says on there. Not really that important. The point is, if that thing's full and you have 5,000 gallons of water, all of a sudden there's a forest fire coming into the area. You have access to 5,000 gallons of water to fight that fire. Tell the fire department, hey, come on in. I have 5,000 gallons of water. All right, that's a lot of water. However, if you have a drilled well like this little well there, and it's going down into the aquifer, we'll talk more about that here in a minute. If you have that, you can drain that aquifer pretty quickly. One of my former neighbors actually had his toilet, the little flapper thing inside the tank on the back of the toilet, the flapper stuck open, and he went away someplace, came back, and he heard some weird noises, and he went in and oh man, the thing's open, and it was just still running, and I guess it was still just a trickle by then. And he said it basically dried out as well, and he had to wait for a while, and thankfully the aquifer came back up again, and everything was okay. But he didn't have a very strong well, and a couple times it went dry, and he had to wait a number of hours and maybe even a day or so for it to come back. And I've heard of people that they actually will make their well go dry and it doesn't come back, and you have to have it re-drilled, or drilled in a new spot or something. So cisterns, one of their biggest benefits is you have access to thousands of gallons of water. The problem is they are dependent on rain. So if you live in an area of low rainfall, or if you have a drought, you can be in a lot of trouble. So I think that the smart thing to do, I'll kind of get ahead of myself here a little bit, but the smart thing to do when it comes to an off-grid homestead is you need to have multiple sources of water, not just a drilled well or a spring on your property or a rainwater catchment system. You should have multiple systems in case one fails. I think that's a smart thing to do. That's what we do. Another thing that you have to remember, okay, right here, this one is showing a shingled roof. Terrible idea. Okay, if you collect rainwater catchment from a shingled roof, there's little grit there that comes off a shingled roof will get down into your cistern, and it starts to make it, get kind of a sulfur type of smell to it, and bad news. I know people that use it. There are people I've met, places I've gone to where they have rainwater catchment and it comes off of a shingled roof, but not the best. You really would you'd be better off with having a metal roof where you're not going to get, a lot of stuff coming off of your shingles and whatever else. The other thing is, where is your house located? Where's your place at? If it's back in the woods, back under a lot of trees, where you're going to be dealing with leaf litter, you're going to be dealing with birds going in your rain gutter, your rainwater catchment system, going to the bathroom, you're going to be dealing with a lot of dirt getting into that. Even if you put gutter guards on and you're trying to keep stuff out of it, you're still going to have to deal with a lot of it. That's one of the downsides. Where we do our rainwater catchment, there are no trees anywhere near the water that we're catching. So we really don't get that many leaves in unless it's really blowing hard and might blow some up into the tank or whatever else. So that's another thing to think about. That's very important. Another thing with this place right here, our house here, originally the way it was built with the cistern in the basement, it would have needed some kind of electric pump or whatever to get the water up to the faucets and everything else. But it also had a unique system where it was an old wood stove in the basement, and a big, huge old wood stove. It's still down there, but unfortunately, it had a thermal siphoning system where the pipes kind of went like this, up and down, and then it went up through. So the water came out of the cistern into the back of the wood stove, and then it went upstairs to the radiant heat throughout the house. And so it's pooling water because as the stove gets hot, it heats up the water. The hot water rises up, goes up through the system, and then it comes back down in, I guess, back into the cistern, or maybe it just, I'm not even sure with the heat system, but it worked very well. And then they got rid of the cistern in the basement, hooked up to the town water, and the fluoride's extremely corrosive, and it actually corroded the pipes inside the stove, and it ruined the stove. So, and then they put in a wood-powered furnace, I think with oil backup heat, and that's still down the basement too. Need to get this stuff out, scrap value, I guess, but it's going to be a real treat to. I'll have to cut them up. There's no way I'm carrying these big things out. But that was ruined as well. You can see where the pipes ate through and burst. And now we just have an oil furnace downstairs. There's nothing, any kind of a setup there for wood, and that thing will probably go bad eventually too. I mean, there's a up in the town of Holton, up from us, there's the Holton Hannaford, I think it is. No, I'm sorry. No, it's Andy's IGA in Holton. And the bathroom that they have for the public to use, you go back in and it's kind of back into the right. You go back in there, and the spigot, the faucet, where the base is at, it's got these huge holes eaten through it. Why? Because of the fluoridated water. My grandparents down in Pennsylvania years ago, before they died, I had to replace their kitchen faucet because it was just totally eaten out because of the fluoride. Sodium fluoride will eat through metal like that, but it's good for your teeth. Yeah, right. No, it's not. Very bad for your teeth. Study that issue if you don't know about that. So rainwater catchment is a really good thing. I think even if you have um, a drilled well or whatever else, I think rainwater catchment is a really smart thing to do. Even if you're on grid again, the grid goes down, you need water. What do? Rainwater catchment's a very smart thing to do. Um, and another story, I'll say this quickly, that my wife, her childhood home that she grew up in, it was an old farm from the 1800s, late 1800s, and it had the rainwater cistern. And they eventually had a well, drilled well, but then uh, because of all the irrigation out in the Midwest there and everything, they started to dry up the aquifer out there. And so a lot of the people, the old farms that had the drilled wells don't work anymore. So then they had to put in the town water, and it was fluoridated. And she said if they put the fluoridated water on the plants in her parents' house, it would kill the plants. Another good argument for putting in people's water supply. But it would kill the houseplants, so they actually put a rainwater catchment system outside, and they would water their plants with the rainwater catchment, and the plants did great. So again, if you're in an area and you are unfortunate in that you have fluoridated water or chlorinated as well, and that's all that's available, well then put in some rainwater catchment, and you could filter it and water your plants with it or whatever else. I would recommend that. Okay, another option, which I talked about before, is a drilled well. Okay, if you've seen these little well pipes in people's yards, that's what that is if you're not aware of that. The problem with that is it requires a lot of things. Okay, if you have it drilled down into there, down in here would be the aquifer. You can see it in this picture here. You're going through different types of soil and rock and whatever else. Then you have to put a submersible pump in there, and it says and then the drop pipe going down into there, and the well casing is this big pipe that goes down in the well head and cap. There's a wire that goes down to run the pump, which can always break, or if power outage, well then you're kind of in trouble there. But that goes out and it goes into the pressure switch and to the fuse panel, and then inside you have to have a pressure tank. So there's a bunch of things right there, all of which can go bad. And usually they don't. It's not like it's going to go bad every week it goes bad or something. No, it'll work for many years. But again, if you're in an off-grid situation and you're starting from scratch, might not be the best idea. And the other thing is, if you're at a high elevation, again, you're going to be running into some trouble there, because higher elevations are going to be typically the water is going to be a lot lower down in, and you might go down in 400 feet before you hit water. And one of my neighbors told me where our property is. He said you go down in about, I forget what he said, 4 to 6 feet, and he said you're just going to hit solid rock, ledge. I think he said down there, and he said that's what you're going to hit when you drill for a well. It's not really that great. And again, if you have a well driller come and they're starting to drill down through that, well, you're going to get charged for that. And they can drill, and if they don't hit any water, they might have to try someplace else. But each time they're poking down in there, with their drill, you're going to be having to spend money for that. So it can get quite expensive. I've heard of bad stories of people who are spending multiple thousands of dollars, maybe even over $10,000-$20,000 on getting their well drilled. Well, that's a lot of money. So it's an option. Again, if you go there and there's an old house site and there's an old drilled well and it works, you check it. Hey, the water's pretty good. Again, a lot of times underneath this cap here, excuse me, the well cap, if you flip it, if you take it off, there's little set screws that hold it on. You back them out, and then you not out the whole way, but you just loosen them enough that it comes off, and you can look underneath, and they'll write in marker, like black marker, how many feet down it is, and the gallons per minute is what you'll find underneath that. And if you have one of those and you want to be off grid, you don't want the electric thing, then one of the things that you can do here is you can get a Bison deep well pump. Most of the little hand pumps and things, they don't work going down a couple hundred feet. These things go down, they can go down pretty far. I don't remember the exact amount that this, that they said about here, but they're actually made right up here in northern Maine. And I've used a couple of them. We don't own one on our property. There are some, that I've used in the area. There's a park where they have one and you can use it, and they work really well. They're really good, and they don't freeze. You can use them pretty much all year round. I think that you have to do some things, take certain things out, whatever else, so it doesn't freeze up inside there. Um, but so yeah, that's another option. Having a drilled well, and then you can put a hand pump on it. That's another thing there. And we'll get to another one here. All right, I had to take care of a troll over there. Natural spring. What about a natural spring? Again, I had this little stock photo thing up here when we first got started. This one here, you can see it's going into some sort of a stone thing. It's just a picture, you can get off the internet there. But it's an old pipe that comes out, and then the spring water, it gets up to a certain point and then it flows out the pipe. And when I was a boy, we went back in the woods. There was the Strasburg Township down in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. They had what they call the watershed, their watershed, which is basically if you have hills coming down into a valley and a stream in the valley, typically you can have some really good, supply of water down in there. Well, they had multiple springs, and then what they did is they capped them with concrete, those springs, and then the water would fill up and it would go out overflow pipes if there was a lot of it. But they piped it down and into the town of Strasburg. And so we called it, we'd say, let's go back to the springs, because there were multiple capped springs back in there. And as a child, it was just a normal thing. You go down there in the summer months. A lot of times the spring would be running really well, and it just looked like that. It was a pipe that came out of the one capped well, and it was actually pretty big. It was probably 4 or 5 inch pipe, like casing pipe, well casing pipe coming out, and it was just really flowing out of there a lot of times. I mean, sometimes it was almost the whole pipe diameter coming out. I mean, it really came out there, and we'd play in the water and stuff as children, and we'd make little rock things to splash the water at some other direction, or we had a great time with it. But you could drink it, and it was really good to drink. So I was kind of raised with that, and I remember different times I'd show people that are not familiar with springs, this type of a thing, and it just runs all the time, and they think, well, do you have to shut it off or something, or how do you turn it off or something? No, it runs all the time. So that's another thing that you can do. There's another picture. This is looks a little bit cleaner there. A PVC pipe coming out with some spring water pouring out of it. They just have a rock right there so it doesn't eat out the ground. And we have one very similar to that in our area here, and it pretty much is flowing from, I would say, usually it'll start up again in September, and then it runs the whole way to probably about June, July, somewhere in there is when it'll start to dry up. It'll start to get down to more of a trickle, but it runs most of the year. And I mean, you can go in the dead of winter, it can be 30 degrees below zero, and you go and you can dig out, and you'll hear it before you see it sometimes, because the snow plows, they'll cover it. It's right along the road, and you have to go and you dig it out and everything, and you'll hear the water trickling in there, and it just runs all the time. And it's it'll stay between 40 and 50 degrees year round. Really amazing. And people have been going there for years, and most of the people in the area get their drinking water there. And you can fill up. And what we've done for a while is we have a big tank that we use, 360 gallons, I think. And we'll go and we'll fill it up in the spring, and then we'll just keep that tank in, hidden, so it's not getting, exposed to sunlight, I'm saying. And then, we're what we do then is when the spring dries up, then we just start to use out of that 360 gallons of water, and we're very conservative with it. But then we can also use rainwater catchment as well. So there's different options there. We did actually find a side hill seep, which is a type of spring. You have springs that come up, and then you have springs that come out. So if you have like a hill coming down like this, and you can sometimes have a spring and it seeps and it goes down the hill like that. Well, that's what we found on our property. We have one like that. We also have a little spring-fed pond that's pretty much always running. So we have two different springs there as water sources. The side hill seep, it's, again, without going into a huge big thing there, you can, if you find water coming out of the side of a hill, it's a source of water. Now you might, if you want to get it checked or whatever, that might be a good idea, just in case. It might not be totally safe or whatever, might be a good idea. Just make sure it's good, clean water, and that there's no chemicals in the ground that are polluting it. But if you find something, and especially if you see a lot of animals drinking from it, usually that's a good indication. But little, tadpoles in it in the springtime, turn into frogs or whatever. There's life in it and things. That's usually pretty good. But what you can do is that side hill seep, you can build up, you can kind of dam it up, and then so the water starts to rise up, and then you can have a pipe that flows out, then you can cap it, and then send that pipe down a hill, and then eventually come out like this picture right here. And then you can just take your jugs down and whatever. And again, um, if you saw the video that I did about running water and whatever else, different things, and I talked about the blue Reliance jugs, that's what we use. That's how you wash your hands. It was on a hygiene, is what it was. So you can get the blue jugs, any kind of water jugs, fill them up at the spring, and there you have your running water. Works very well. Like I said, it's iffy. It's going to be probably the best, most clean water that you can get, unless there's chemical pollution in the area. But the problem with most springs is that they will dry up at some point in time through the year. There are some that's not the way it is. I mean, we had a big spring over on our property when we first bought our property in Littleton, Maine, and that spring never dried up. I mean, we went through droughts where the ground had cracks in it. I mean, it was really dry those years. The grasses, people's yards were just brown, and our spring just ran nonstop, and it ran 365 days a year, never dried up. There are some that are like that. Again, others will dry up in the summer typically. So just something to think about there. Another way that you can get water is from a river, a stream, a creek, a brook, whatever, or a lake. And again, you're going to be there in that situation. You have to be extremely careful because there are springs that I know of that originate up in the mountain, not far from where our property is, and they come down and they form into a creek, and it's crystal clear. But the problem is, as it gets out of the mountain, the side of the mountain, it's pure, but it starts to come down through the woods, and now Mr. Moose decides to go walking by, and he has to go to the bathroom or something, and then that gets into the water, and then this gets into it, and cars go by and they're splashing antifreeze out, oil out, and the rainwater washes it down into the creek, and then in the wintertime they put the salt and the other sludge on the road to melt the ice and the snow, and that gets into the water. And so by the time you get pretty far away down the creek, it still might look really nice and clean, but it's got a lot of things added to it. So can you use it to wash laundry? Can you use it to do things like that? Yes, you could, but it's iffy. You get into lakes. Most lakes, if there are boats anywhere nearby, if they can drive boats back through, motorized boats, the exhaust from those motors, the outboard motors, gets into the lake. They're not very clean. There's a lot of mercury and everything else in it. So you have to be really careful about that. Again, if you have your own spring-fed pond on your property, it might be pretty clean, and you might be okay using some of that for water for whatever. If you have to drink it, definitely filter it. would be the thing. So if you're looking for land and you look and, hey, there's a really beautiful stream in the back, where's the source of it? How far up does it go? Oh, it's actually on our property. Oh, okay. That'd be good. Or, well, it goes up in and it goes through a farm and whatever. Oh, does the farm use fertilizer? Do they use other things? Is it runoff from livestock? All things to consider. Um, if it's, hey, we have a spring-fed pond on our property, well, great. That might be a good place where you can go and get some clean water and use it for laundry or whatever else, but still you'd want to filter it. And the other thing would be that would be possible for an off-grid homestead would be hauling water from a place that sells it. So I've heard of people doing that. There are springs and things that are really powerful, really strong, and you go and you can fill up your jugs there, and you only pay a little bit of money for filling up the jugs and whatnot. I actually knew a place where my grandparents used to go. They would get spring water from a place, and you would go in there, and I think it was 25 cents per gallon or something like that. And so people would just take their old milk jugs, 1 gallon milk jugs, and they'd go in there, clean them out first, obviously, but they would put a quarter in the machine, and then it would open up the thing, and you could put it in there and fill it up with spring water and keep doing it that way. And so it was, a pretty cheap way to do it. You can do it that way, haul your water into your homestead. Um, that's a way that you can do it. And you can get by just fine if it's just your drinking water, you're washing your dishes, brushing your teeth, washing your hands, whatever. But then you start getting into the thing of washing your clothing, and up goes your water usage. Um, and especially then if you get livestock, you can't tell your milk cow, don't drink very much. We don't have much here, we have to pay for it or something. You need to have a better source of water for livestock. So that should cover, I think, everything on my list here. So um, I can go over some questions. And the person that I blocked there, they said I'm a Jesuit. Okay. No, I'm not. Uh, they people said that, and it's the dumbest thing out there. I mean, give me a break. So, okay. Let's see here. Post this comment. Question: on your last video, did you mention anything about deodorant, and do you all use any? Most deodorants are aluminum, which is highly toxic. Any recommendations? I did talk about the thing of deodorant. We do not use store brand deodorant. There's a lot of different things that you can do. You can just use regular baking soda. I've done that. You can use a white vinegar, watered down a little bit, spray that. Cornstarch with different types of things in it, and like dried powder. We actually took wild mint leaves the one time and ground them up, dried them, and then ground them up, and that made kind of an interesting deodorant. So there's different things that you can do, but a lot of the thing of deodorant is that you want to get toxic food and toxic stuff detoxified out of your body. You won't smell as bad when you sweat. I know that might sound weird, but it's true. Question: did you cover ram pumps for moving water without electricity? No, I did not. I don't even know if I might have missed that. Yes, I did. I did miss that. Thank you, Brother Matthew. Yes, ram pumps. That's another thing that you can actually move water uphill. So you could actually put, if you have a spring, we'll say, you could actually use a ram pump and pump water without electricity up to a tank in the upstairs part of your house, and then gravity feed it down through. And again, I don't know. I don't have any experience with ram pumps. I don't know anything about it. I actually knew an Amish family in the area that they didn't have a ram pump, but they used a gas powered pump. And so they would, they had a tank upstairs. They did some thermal siphoning with their wood cook stove. And it was just a simple matter of, okay, well, the tank's getting a little bit low, go fire up the gas. It was a Honda, water pump. And they could pump the little small Honda, I forget the model number, but it can actually pump, I think, 15 feet straight up. And so you just go out there and fire the thing up and pump water up into the tank, and then once the tank's full, somebody upstairs would yell, "Okay," and he'd shut off the pump, and the water would come back down. They drain the water out of the pump so it doesn't freeze or whatever else. That's another possibility. So um, remember that most people around the world do not have running water all the time, too. So if they can do it, you can do it. Again, if you're trying to have a simple life off grid, just learn from other people in other countries. They're doing it and they function just fine. Okay. Question, do you think we will see wormwood hit Asia? I ask this because it will poison the ocean waters and the only source will be well water. Um, well, when you start getting into um, the thing of Bible prophecy, it says about the springs and things becoming blood. So it's not just going to be the wormwood thing. It's going to be a bad time. People are going to be running out of water. It's a good point, but somebody trying to go off grid right now, not really an issue for them. Have you looked into how they drill wells in the Philippines? No, I have not. I'm ignorant on that one. I do not know. um, Question, have you heard of these tablets you put in the water and cleanse it? Yes, I have. Iodine, I think it is. Yeah, that you can put in it. I remember reading this guy who was in special operations, and he was in Vietnam, and he said that they couldn't find any good clean water, and he said there was like a puddle, and he took his canteen and he just got some water, kind of tried to strain, put his hand there and try to keep big stuff from floating into his canteen, and looked in and it's just ugh. And he said he put an iodine tablet in it, shook it up so it dissolved, and he thought, well, here we go. And he said he was drinking it and he could feel he was drinking clumps of stuff going down in, and had to have water. So uh, but in long-term type of thing, yeah, you really wouldn't want to do that. um, Do you filter the spring water? I know, dumb question. That's not a dumb question. No, we don't. No. Um, you'll learn pretty quickly. Uh, if it's bad, you'll start to feel it. You'll smell it. You'll get sick and whatever. I mean, we've been drinking the spring water for years, and people have been drinking it a lot longer than we were around. So, question: what do you say to the brethren that think this isn't necessary because we are to take the Lord trust trust the Lord to take care of all of our needs? In terms of being off grid, uh, well, the Bible talks about the prudent man foreseeing the evil and hiding himself, but the simple being, passing on and being punished. Uh, if you see bad times coming, it would be wise to leave and to move and go someplace else. And being an off-grid, person. I mean, let's just look at the situation right now, okay, with the economy. Um, what I'm seeing here is I was watching it. I watch a lot of financial type of stuff just simply because I'm trying to see, okay, what's the next move? How close are we to the mark of the beast thing? I'm watching so I can warn the body of Christ. And they want very badly to bring out a central bank digital currency, because central bank digital currency can be tied to social credit scores and they can shut you down. And if you've been keeping up with this trucking thing in Canada, um, oh, you're funding the protesters, whatever. Well, we're going to lock your bank account down. Okay, that's a tactic of warfare, cutting off supplies to people. Truckers go, and they're protesting and all this other stuff. Well, that's going to cut off supply chains. And interesting, tomorrow on 2/22 of 2022, kind of an interesting thing there. They're going to be starting the trucking protest in America. They're going to drive to Washington, D.C. And we're already having problems with our supply chain. And all of a sudden, the truckers are all going to Washington, D.C. There goes the supply chain issue. It's going to trigger a lot of bad stuff happening. So, there's some nasty things coming. But also this year, we have the midterm election cycle, which people are really upset with the Democrats right now. And I don't believe in the Democrat Republican thing. It's all just controlled. It's, selections. It's not elections, it's selections. But think about this whole thing. Okay. If they don't do something about the economy soon, I mean, they just keep injecting money. The Federal Reserve keeps injecting money in, and you're going to eventually have hyperinflation. It happens every single time. The Weimar Republic, Zimbabwe, all the different countries that have done just to keep injecting cash, it causes hyperinflation. Well, then they should let the stock market crash. But that will lead to other things. Well, if they have to redo the currency, you have to go back to a gold and silver standard, basically to redo the currency. So if they can do a central bank digital currency, how do they bring that thing in right now? That's the question. And they might be able to just keep the debt system going if they just kind of say, yeah, we're not basing it on gold or, actual physical wealth anymore. We'll just kind of keep things going and whatever. And so it's a weird situation with this election coming up in the fall, and then you have the trucker protest thing cutting off supply chain. So, oh, well, we'll just trust the Lord through the whole thing. Well, yeah, trust the Lord. But if you're in a bad situation, you better get to some place where it's going to be safe. And if you're in a bad situation and you say, well, I can't get to some place where it's safe, okay, then start to implement some off-grid type of stuff. If you have to get away from the economic situation, take your money out of the banks and put it into physical assets and whatever else to protect yourself, do that, and do it soon, by the way. A lot of the banks are closing and just banker holidays and whatever else. Banking holiday, by the way, if you don't know, it means that they go on holiday, like they say over in the UK. I'm on vacation. They're just not there. So you come in and you say, hey, I need money to buy groceries. Sorry, we're closed right now. Now, I mean, I've seen it here with our local bank where they're just closed for no reason. People say they go to the ATM to try to get out money, and sorry, there's no money. So trust the Lord, absolutely, but you don't trust the Lord to keep the system going that He prophesied would fall apart. That doesn't make any sense. So, little rant there, but something to think about. Question: do you use your solar system to pump water? No, absolutely not. We do not have a drilled well. How long does it take you to do your washing, and how often do you do it? I was unable to watch your last video live. The laundry thing, it takes longer. I'm not going to lie and say, oh, it's just as quick as a washing machine. No, it's not. But it's a time that we can be together as family and we can enjoy it. It doesn't take a huge amount of time. You can probably get a load of laundry done in, anywhere from 15 minutes to a half hour. Not a big deal. We don't do a huge amount of laundry and whatever else. For that reason, we're very careful how often we do it. Question: you ever seen those videos with those guys digging underground homes with just a simple tool? YouTube underground homes. The Eastern guys or whatever, the Filipinos or whatever. I have, but it's kind of okay. Could you live in the thing and whatever? I don't know. Question: dear brother, do you know how long you can keep water? God bless you. Good question. Very good question. If you're going to keep water for a long time, you have to keep it in an area that is not going to, that they won't be exposed to direct sunlight. If it's a lit room or whatever, that's fine. It doesn't have to be in a dark basement or something like that, but you have to keep them away from direct sunlight, especially if it's a clear container, because if it's a clear container, it's going to start getting algae growth in it. People say, well, you can just take a few drops of bleach and put it in there, and then that'll kill any bacteria or whatever else. Well, yes, but bleach, Clorox bleach is carcinogenic. It can give you cancer. So you say, well, in small amounts. Well, no, not in small amounts, but it's not really the best stuff to put in there. One thing that I've done over the years, just to let you know, is there are also metals that are antibacterial. The best known one would be silver, pure silver, not junk silver like the early coins, the peace dollar, the Morgan dollar, the silver quarters, the silver dimes. that were actual currency here in America or whatever your country is. Those aren't pure silver, or sterling silver. That's not pure silver. You get a pure silver round, 0.999 silver, or like the Canadian maple leaf is 0.9999. Excuse me, nine. It's 49 silver. You get one of those coins, like a 1 ounce coin or something, and you put it down into your water containment, your water jug or whatever else, and that silver will actually kill any kind of bacteria in there. And a lot of people will do the thing of like the colloidal silver and whatever else. Well, our Berkey that we used to have that we would use, we would actually store silver coins in the bottom part of it. The top part where you put the water in, and the charcoal filters are up there. They go down through, and then we would actually put our silver coins down on the bottom of the Berkey, bottom part of it. And we had a stainless steel one, so you couldn't even see it there in there. So good place to store your silver. Make sure it's clean first, get all the oils off of it and everything, sterilize them in really hot water, and after they're cooled down, put them into your lower part of your water filter. And just them being in there, we didn't get colds ever drinking that water. So one way that you can do it there, use silver coins to purify your water. That's a more natural way than using Clorox bleach, which I don't really recommend that. And as far as keeping the water, you can pretty much do that indefinitely. I actually heard there was an ancient culture the one time that they actually had urns made to store water, and the urns were made out of solid silver. So it'd be a little bit expensive nowadays, though. Question: filtering versus boiling water, which is better for purification? I remember reading somewhere that boiling water increases fluoride concentration. Yeah, depending on what's in the water, boiling it's not the best idea. I mean, when I was in Costa Rica, they would boil the water down there before they would make anything for us. They have the infamous Montezuma's Revenge down there. So they would always boil it. But okay. You can boil poison water and it will still be poison. Filtering is great. Use both together and I think you're golden. In most cases, yeah, you probably would be okay with that. What do you think about fiberglass cisterns? The fiberglass can break down over time. Again, they're pretty decent, but I mean, plastic can break down over time. So the issue with cisterns is that there's not really any perfect material for them. There's even wooden cisterns, but the problem is they leak, and then the water has kind of a wooden flavor to it too. It's not, kind of a woody flavor. Have you talked about water distillation yet? No, I haven't. That's another thing that you can do. You can distill water. Basically by cooking it, the steam goes up, and then you can catch the water going off, and it's distilled, and it gets rid of all the bad stuff and whatever else. So question: in New Zealand, they are trying to charge people to use rainwater. Certain places here too. It's called the Three Water Scheme, aimed at the farmers. Rainwater is the main way to collect water in New Zealand. Yeah, they're I've heard of meters that they're putting on people's like the rain gutter that comes down into the tank or whatever else. It's insane. Can you use a troy ounce silver buffalo nickel to purify the water? Can you drink the rainwater, and wash clothes with it? If it's like a 0.999 silver, then yeah, I think you probably could. Not really familiar with that type of coin, but probably you could if it's a pure silver, then absolutely, yeah. And can you drink the rainwater and wash clothes with it? We wash clothes with our rainwater catchment, and we don't filter it or anything else. Drinking the rainwater, we put it through a filtration system like a Berkey filter is what we do with that. Question: what do you think about biofilters? By biofilter, I'm thinking you're meaning, charcoal, sand, things like that. That's another method of filtering out water, or filtering out impurities in water. And yeah, that's another possibility, things that you can do with that. There's a lot of really interesting things out there in terms of purifying water. So um, I don't think buffalo nickels have ever been silver. Pretty sure they are copper nickel. Yeah, I think, I'm not sure that that's what she meant though. If there's ones that, because see, they have these companies coming out and they're making silver reproductions of American coins and whatever else, and you know I don't know exactly if it says 0.999 silver on it. Okay, if not, if it's that, the buffalo nickels, then yeah, they're definitely not pure silver. Just the same as a peace dollar, a Morgan dollar, silver, quarter silver, dime. Those are not pure silver. I think they're about 0.90 silver or something. So, and of course, like I said earlier, just to kind of restate this, water is going to definitely be one of the most important things um, when you go off grid. And so if you're in a really dry area and there's no rain, you can haul your water in from someplace, but it might not be very convenient to do that. So anybody else have any other questions before we close out this video? And as I've said before, if you could please like the video and share it with other people or whatever else. I'd like to have these videos actually get rated in YouTube, not just bury them and things. So that'd be great if people can do that. Um, okay. I inherited from my deceased uncle. It does say 0.999. Okay, good. Yeah, then yeah, you could use it to filter water. Um, Question: do you think there's an agenda with Nestle depleting the aquifers worldwide? Nestle, I'm not sure what you mean by Nestle, but um, uh, there, the aquifer depletion thing that uh, I forget what the one out in the Midwest is called, but the Ola Gala or something like that. That one's a really big issue. Um, there's a uh, there's a documentary I saw a while back on Pumped Dry, I think it's called, and just shocking, absolutely shocking how the water table has gone down, and oh man, crazy, really a bad situation. And in the time of Jacob's trouble, it's going to be super bad with the water turning to blood and everything else. So it's heading in that direction of the water is going to run out. Clean water will run out. Um, Question, but not for your information. We are in a water war up here. Uh, I don't understand. What do you mean a water war? Okay, Nestle bottle water bottling company. I believe. Okay. Um, yeah, I don't know. What do you mean by a water war? I'm not sure there, Brother John. Um, do you reoxygenate your water? No, we don't, because it's running out of a pipe and everything. We're not really concerned about it, you know, getting air in it or anything else like that. Um, so okay, huh? Yeah, I didn't hear about the thing of Nestle water or Nestle, company doing that. Um, that's crazy. I'll tell you what. Just Um, you know, what do I think about aquaponics? I When it comes to growing things, I think you need to put stuff in the ground and grow it. You start getting into the hydroponics, aquaponics, and all this other stuff. I don't know. I've heard people that are really into it, and they make some good arguments. I don't know. Uh, Question: have you ever been in a situation where you didn't know what to do going forward? If so, how do you get out of it? Wait on the Lord. Pray. God will not suffer you to be tempted above that you're able to bear, but will with the temptation make a way to escape that ye may be able to bear it. Um, he will, I'm quoting scripture there. He, God won't allow you to be tempted to the point where you just fail. Um, and I will tell you, when you get older in years, you'll look back at the times where you didn't know what to do and you thought, oh, this is the end, this is really bad. And you'll realize it was God directing you. The stupid NIV comes out and it says, he'll make your path straight, back in the book of Proverbs. That's not what the King James Bible says. The King James Bible says he will direct your paths. You'll come to a point in time where you'll hit a rock and you'll say, okay, there's no way around this thing. And all of a sudden the Lord will say, actually, go over it or go around it or this way or that way. There are situations where you're praying about something and the Lord is judging a certain people in your life or certain situations, and he just kind of says to you, just wait. You know, um, heard some gunshots yesterday when we were at our property, and I thought, sounded like it was on our land, and I said, I have to go check this out. My son said, oh, I'll go with you. I said, no, you don't come with me. I'm going to go check this out myself. And turned out it was some neighbors that came up to their cabin. They're hardly ever there, and they came up in there. I guess they were target shooting or something, but I didn't even know that they had come. So I just went by. Oh, okay, they're there. You know, hi, and whatever. It was fine, but I had to go in there and take care of that situation, and my son had to wait, and he had no idea what was going on, and he was afraid and whatever. He was out riding around on his has a bike with, we put skis on it, and he's out riding around his ski bike. And I said, come over here, you know, stay here, don't go over in that area. I don't know if they're shooting back onto our land and whatever. Everything was fine, but I had to go check it out. So just sorry to get a little sidetracked there, but that's the story I'm having to use to prove my point here. God is doing a lot of things right now, and judgment is one of the big things that he's doing. And a lot of what we're going through as Christians is the Lord's just saying, step off to the side, wait, just lay low, read my word, pray like crazy. I'll be right back. I have to take care of the situation. Um, and so just wait on the Lord. So, um, okay. More questions here. How do you get the spring water to your house? In I think they're 7-gallon jugs, pretty, you know, fairly heavy, but we just put them in our vehicle and we go home, go to where the spring is, get our water, come back home. Um, Not the best situation, but it works. Do you think it's good to train your body to live on as less water as possible now, preparing for hard times? Yeah, it's always good to prepare for hard times. Absolutely. How is your wife doing? I would love to see her doing a video for women. That would be a blessing. She's very active building a computer right now. For her, her computer is, she's never had a real good computer the entire time. I have the ones that are for the video editing, and my computers are fast and everything else. And I say computers because I have one that I had. This one here is about 12 years old, I think. I'm pointing over this way, you can't see it, but this one is an older computer. My other one I bought for being off grid, and both are video editing type computers. Nothing really extravagant or whatever, but they're good computers, old ones, Windows 7 computers. she's been getting into the thing of Linux, and she's currently building that system. So that's what she's very busy with right now. So, but that's going to be it. We're about at an hour, a little over an hour here, so we'll end this live stream. And so I think it's about ready to tip into some really weird stuff. I actually heard a guy make a point, and I don't know if there's any truth to this or not, but he said that there's some kind of a weird planetary alignment coming up, and it's going to be hitting, tomorrow on the 2/22 of 2022, and that the last time that the planets lined up this way, Pluto and a bunch of others, last time it lined up this way was when the Declaration of Independence was signed. And I'm thinking, okay, I think we have some propaganda here. But I don't know. There's some really weird stuff about to occur in this country. It would be really nice if I could just say, snap my fingers, and everybody listening, all my viewers, get off-grid homesteads, and we're all prepared, and we all have a cow for milking and chickens for eggs, and we have, all the animals we want, all the food we want, all the wild edibles we want, our perfect little cabin in the woods and everything else because I said so and I snapped my fingers. It doesn't work that way. I'm not as prepared as I would like to be for things to really fall apart. We're all going to have to rely on the Lord if things really get crazy here in the next month or two. There are some things that are shaping up that it could get pretty nuts, and I don't know the Lord's timing on letting things fall apart. In the last days, perilous times shall come. That's written to Christians. That's before the catching up, before the time of Jacob's trouble. So perilous times are coming. That's one of the reasons I want to get these videos done, so people can implement some of what I've been saying. If the grid goes down where you are, or if you are forced into a situation where you have to live off grid to survive, it's possible. People have been doing it for a long time. Okay, you're not going to some new way of thinking. You're actually returning to an ancient way of thinking. Remember that. If you have the right mindset, 90% here, 10% down here. Remember that. It's not work, it's fun. Okay, I'm enjoying this. This is really hard labor, hard physical labor, but you know what? It's exercise. I'm staying in good health. I'm out in nature. This is wonderful. I don't, if you have to leave and you're homeless and you're living in your car, well, at least I don't have a house payment anymore. That's great. Hey, Lord, if you want me to meet some people when I'm out here and I'm homeless, living in my car, okay, cross my path with somebody that wants to hear the gospel. Otherwise, I'm just going to go out and enjoy looking at nature and look at wildflowers and pretty butterflies and whatever else. And they are pretty. I'm not being sarcastic. Butterflies are very beautiful little creatures. And hear the birds singing in the trees and enjoy those things. Romans 8:28. Okay, all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose. And it begins with, for we know that. Okay, not to leave out the first part. So that is going to be it for this one. Tomorrow we will be talking about the 6 biggest electric needs when you go off grid. And I say needs kind of in quotations there. We'll talk about that. Actually, now I see where the thing of the ram pump came in. I actually have it on tomorrow's video. So I guess I had a thing here, note about it, but it's actually going to be in tomorrow's video. So we will see everybody tomorrow, 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And so we'll see you then. And thank you very much for watching. And please do continue to pray for us. We really do appreciate that. So see everybody tomorrow.